Hello and welcome. Today's project is all about life after GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, what my life was like before recovery. So I have Maggie here to talk with me about how I was, my personality, when I was suffering from anxiety. And we started dating how long ago? It's been 5 years. We got engaged last year, but
6 years.
it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
So let's go back 6 years to when I was suffering from health anxiety, when I was suffering from agoraphobia, and what it was like, going through that period and how far I've come during that. So, really, the goal of this video is to provide you guys with uh, the before and after, how far you can come if you stick to your aim, your goal. And I'm always progressing now. There's no end. You'll see that when you start to improve your life, you'll become addicted to this whole process of, like, you see yourself becoming something different and you get that dopamine kick. You feel more empowered than ever before, and then you continue this process. But in this video I want to talk about how I got to my goal of getting over GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, how I got over health anxiety. So I want to talk with you, Maggie, about the three biggest improvements that occurred that you see in me now. And well, take it from here. What's the first improvement?
Um. So, like you said, I always notice that Brad always asks me how far he's come, and then he likes to have that feedback. And I'm sure your audience would benefit from that as well.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that I've noted is that when we first met, I felt like Brad was really closed off. Like he would always like to internalize things, then vocalize it to me, and so if he's feeling something, he'd rather keep it to himself rather than sharing it with me.
Mm-hmm.
And my personality type was a little bit different, where I would like to vocalize how I feel all the time.
You're more extroverted.
Yeah, which is fine. Everybody's built a little differently, and it's
Yeah.
fine. It's okay to live your truth, but sometimes when you are in a relationship, you want to know how your partner is feeling. You want to know if they're okay, if they
Mm-hmm.
need to talk. And one of the benefits of being in a relationship is that you have this extra emotional support outside of what you can provide yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was really difficult for me at first when Brad was a little bit closed off and he wouldn't communicate to me about how he's feeling, so I wouldn't really know what's going through his mind. And yeah.
Yeah. Anxiety sufferers get so caught up in their thoughts, and basically what was going on is I was so hyper focused on my how I was feeling, and I would let my emotions control me. So I was pretty much like a puppet for a long time about, how I was feeling. If I wasn't feeling okay, then um, my negative emotions would take over, and I was like, I got to do something else. I was so preoccupied. Oh, like internally and externally, it was like I couldn't. I couldn't get into the present moment. I couldn't be mindful. I couldn't look at people, especially you, uh, and really gauge the situation because I was so hyper focused on my symptoms, my sensations, my thoughts, all of those things.
I guess that sort of brings us to one of the next things I wanted to speak to you about. It was that when he's so hyper focused on what's going on inside,
Mm-hmm.
it's like that. It's like where your cup is so full that you don't really have capacity to deal with other people's emotions or what they're going through. Yeah, that's one of the things that that was particularly difficult for me to uh, uh, acclimate myself to. As so everybody has their issues, and sometimes you want to be able to share that with your partner
Yeah.
and get some feedback and some emotional support. And it's great if you're able to do that for yourself. We all should be able to. Ultimately, that's the goal, to be accountable for your emotions. But sometimes it's nice to have that extra hand, extra help that you can get from your partner or for your friends. So I feel like being with a health anxiety sufferer in particular was difficult because they tend to have this capped out emotional capacity.
Yeah, that's a good way
Yeah,
of putting it.
yeah.
Yeah. How am I like now compared
Oh,
to?
oh my goodness! It's just incredible how far he's come. It's I feel like he's become this emotionally evolved human where he's so empathetic towards people and me. I remember when we first met, if I would be angry he would have no idea because he wasn't able to pick up on people's emotions and associate with it, put himself in other people's shoes. It was that bubble where everything was me, not in a selfish way. It's just simply because he was going through a lot, and he was far from being selfish. I feel like there's a difference. Some people are, uh, some people are more internal than others.
But then I also, when I started my recovery, I started to spend a lot of time alone to recover. So I want to clarify that because that's a huge part of the journey is to to set that aim and then to put your focus and your intentions towards that thing, so recovery
Yeah.
and what that entails. So how did our relationship,
Yeah.
what was it like at that time when I was
Yeah.
spending time alone but to recover
Yeah.
rather than being playing video games or
That's a
avoiding?
great point. It's just I feel like if you are a partner who's looking for something, uh, looking for the longevity and the health of your relationship, you have to be able to give your partner that time. Because, yeah, it would have ticked me off if he was just at home playing video games or, you know,
Yeah.
goofing around with friends. Yeah, it would bother me that he'd rather do that over spend a few hours with me. But if your partner is going through this journey and going through this journey of healing and self actualization, you have to be able to give that space because that space at that point is important if you want to have the type of relationship you want in the future, which we do now. And I'm enormously grateful for all the hard work that you put into yourself because it's all about working on yourself in order to have a better relationship.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great time for me because nobody's perfect. When he was working to improve himself, I was happy for him. And yes, it was a little bit, I felt a little disconnected, but also it was a great time for me to work on myself. Right?
Right.
Everybody has their flaws.
And that's the thing too. As soon as I started to improve aspects of myself, Maggie, it kind of like bled out into Maggie's,
Yeah.
yeah, and Maggie's routines, Maggie's,
It's
your,
it's one of the wonders of being in a relationship with a partner who's really disciplined and willing to put so much work into yourself is that you start to pick up on it. You start noticing all these flaws in you that you haven't before, and everybody has flaws, but when when you see your partner becoming this wonderful person, it becomes a mirror to yourself. You see all the things that now he has that you don't, and then you take a step back and you start working on those things yourself, like routine in
routine.
particular.
Yeah.
I still am trying to work on my routine, and he constantly inspires me because I find Brad to be very uncompromising towards his growth. He would not stop growing just to make me feel better. And that is a big inspiration to me because it pushes me to be a better person and in turn a better partner.
So what's the next? That was beautiful, by the way. What's the next big change from then and now?
I've got to say, it's rushing around.
Rushing around.
Rushing around.
Yeah.
Ever since
Yeah.
I met Brad 6 years ago, he's constantly rushing around from one. He's jumpy, one thing to another,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
Like we would say, "Oh, hey, it's a beautiful evening. Let's go for a car ride and grab a coffee or tea." And then we would go for a car ride. We would grab a coffee or tea, and he's jumping to the next one. Okay, let's head back home and let's watch this show or watch this movie. This is just sometimes I feel like his mind is going 100 miles an hour, and it's difficult for me to keep up with it because I'm a little slower.
Yeah, that's a good point. I had to focus that energy on other things. Like, my whole life I've been so energetic towards things, and I would forget my wallet, phone at home all the time, things for work at home, and I had to focus that energy onto other things like meditation to release that energy, exercise, even diet, things like that helped reduce that amount of energy and calm the mind.
Yeah,
And
it's calming the mind. That it's just
yeah,
it's extraordinary for me to watch him now. So today we're at this beautiful cabin off the grid in beautiful Muskoka, Ontario, and we used to do this a long time ago, where we would just the nature has provided us this beautiful nest to rest and relax and reconnect, and we won't be able to do that because we would be jumping from, hey, let's look at the stars, hey, let's take a nap, let's get cook food. But today,
too jumpy.
yeah, too jumpy. It's great to
Yeah.
do activities, but if you are going away to rest and relax, you have to be able to do that without jumping around.
Yeah, and that's where discipline comes in too.
Yeah.
Like if I wasn't disciplined, I wouldn't have a channel to release that energy. Like if I disciplined meditation wise, exercise wise, journaling, things like that. If I didn't have those outlets, then I would just be the same guy jumping around from one thing to the next, not able to like let's just enjoy
Yeah,
the
and
moment.
it used to make me feel sad when you were jumping around, and I wanted you to be able to take that time and relax because I know his weekly schedule. It's really packed, and he deserves the rest because he doesn't get to do what we do here when we go back to the city, and but I just today and recent when we got away recently, I can feel him kicking back and relaxing and breathing in the nature and the sounds. It's just nature provides us what we need to relax. It's just our mind that pushes us out of it. So sometimes we gotta bring our minds into that wavelength so we can really feel the quiet and the beauty.
And we were talking about this before this video. My other now and then improvement, which was a little emotional capacity. So if you want to tell them about that, and it's very common with the anxiety sufferers because they're so internal, right?
Yeah,
So what was that like?
it can be frustrating sometimes. As long as they're on a good path, as long as your partner's on a good path, it's important to be patient with them. And
We talked about this a little bit already, but
yeah, it's I tend to find that when you do suffer with anxiety and just by experience of watching him, and everybody has anxiety. I get anxious sometimes. I can get anxious at work, and I notice myself closing off to other people's emotions. So sometimes I would get anxious if uh, if I'm participating in a, say, a surgery or something, and then I completely turn my emotions off to other people who's probably going through the same thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And then
yeah,
with anxiety sufferers like yourself, you would feel that all the time, and
yeah,
then you're constantly closing others' emotions,
mm-hmm.
which is not the most productive way to be in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because while your partner can be patient throughout your anxiety and recovery,
Right.
they need that love and empathy
It's like a
from you as well.
it's like a blockage, right?
Yeah.
It's like a blockage of energy, and it's the recovery phase, that energy starts to come out
Yeah.
more, because when the anxiety sufferer stops becoming so internal, they become more present, and then sort of like the door to their heart opens up.
Yeah.
And if they don't get to that point, if they don't try and recover, if they don't improve on themselves, then that relationship could eventually fail.
Yeah.
Right? And it would have failed for us. That's the thing too.
And as I'm speaking to you about this, I'm trying to make this connection. I feel like back in the day he would internalize things a lot, and thus block my emotions from reaching him.
Yeah.
And when he started talking to me about it, he would have that outlet to
Yeah.
his emotions, and by that
Oh,
I
yeah.
would be able to get my emotions through to him as well. So
Right.
it's that beautiful loop.
Because you feel like you can't speak to me because my glass is already full.
Yeah.
So then you're like, I can't really say anything about me to Brad because he's already at the boiling point.
Yeah.
And so now that I'm like releasing things, and then you feel free to
Yeah.
release things.
So we get to share our emotions that way.
Yeah.
I give some from my cup to his, and
Yeah.
his to mine. That way we are not filling each other's cups with our problems. Instead, we are solving them.
Yeah.
I find sometimes you just need that second voice in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Because your voice, that's why humans are such creatures of society, right? We need other people. We grow with other people. It's difficult for us to grow alone.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way we only have, because it's like you're getting at a problem with one brain when you have the opportunity to do that with two brains. It's just, I think it's a far more efficient way of tackling day-to-day issues,
Yeah.
while it's important to be independent.
Right.
Yeah.
So we talked about 3 points already. We little emotional capacity. We talked about what was the other one?
We've been
Closed off,
Yeah.
and running around, rushing around too much. And then like this is the fourth one. We said we'd talk about 3, but the fourth one, which is a big one that we've thought about, that I've changed, is being a pushover, right?
Oh yeah.
I used to be a pushover, and now I'm more independent, and it's like cutting the strings of the puppet, right?
Yes.
So if you want to talk about that just briefly.
Yeah, you did used to be a little bit of a pushover.
Yeah, a huge pushover, huge.
So, say we're kind of thinking about where to go for dinner.
Okay.
Even the simplest things like that.
Yeah.
I would always say, I'm always very opinionated. It's just how I'm cut.
Yeah.
I'm opinionated, and I will always voice my opinions. And then when I look back a year later, I realized that everything in our relationship has been my opinion, and that's a very unfulfilling thing for me. I don't want to be the only one who's making decisions because he's brilliant, he's kind, he's loving, and I'm sure if he had to say something about an issue, it matters to me and it matters to the outcome of that decision. And if only one partner in a relationship is making decisions, it is just it your relationship is not at 100%.
Right.
It's working at 50%. It's like a machine that's working at 50% capacity,
Right.
right?
That's a good point.
So it can be frustrating that you're making decisions, but for me it made me sad that we only end up doing the things I want. I want to do things that he wants to do. Part of being in a relationship, we come from very different places in life. Part of the wonder of us being together is that we get to bring this experience to the relationship, right? But if he is manipulated by me, it makes me sad. I don't want you to. If you don't want to do something, I want you to assert yourself and say no. But how about this?
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't have any. I think the discipline helped me with that. I was able to not like I talked about channeling that energy, but within those disciplines lied empowerment. So I like the benefits I would get from meditation, journaling, exercise, that would provide this foundation for me, and it would get me in touch with my feelings more, how what I was thinking, what's on my mind, more connected to myself. Anxiety sufferers are so disconnected. And so
And the other thing is when he was able to assert himself to me, which I was really open to.
right,
I
yeah, more
liked it when
assertive,
he
yeah.
asserted himself. He said, "I don't want to do this. I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
How would you be open to doing that?" And I was always open to
Right,
it.
like suggesting stuff like that made me enjoy it. Like I didn't want to be in the moment and do something that I secretly didn't want to do, and I didn't like know how to express that or assert
Yeah,
myself that way. And
but
then now we can enjoy things on an equal.
yeah, that we both want to do, and we
Yeah,
get to introduce new things to each other, which is a wonderful thing.
yeah,
And it's one thing to be able to assert yourself to your partner because your comfort level with your partner is way higher than strangers. What I've noticed in Brad is that it started off with me and his nuclear family, and then now he's able to assert himself to complete strangers.
yeah.
That's a wonder of that, because being assertive to a family member or to someone who's really close to you is very different from asserting yourself to a stranger, because then you're stepping into the unknown. You don't know how this person's going to react, because he has a pretty good idea how I'm going to react. And if he says, "I don't want to do this, I want to do that," the likely response is, "Sure, let's do it."
Yeah,
But it's not going to be the same with a family, with a stranger. And even with family members, sometimes I get challenged as to my lifestyle from my family, and I'm able to assert myself, "Hey, you know what, this is what's working for me, so I'm doing it. I respect
yeah,
your opinion, but this works for me."
yeah,
And I notice the same thing with Brad now.
yeah,
He found something that works for him, and you are able to stand by your beliefs, not by offending others, but with resolution, and which is a wonderful thing, and it's an important thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
And thank you, Maggie, for being here.
Anytime.
And this coincides with, I think it was the latest podcast episode where I talked about reasons why to overcome anxiety. And this coincides with that. So I hope this video has helped you to realize the aim that you're striving for, and to keep that aim in sight so that you can overcome anxiety and reach the same goal I reached. So
We wish you all the very best.
yes, definitely. And lastly, do not let anxiety define who you are. I will see you on the next video or podcast. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell so that whenever a new video of mine appears, you will be one of the first to know. Namaste.